In this video, we're going to be reviewing the Sig P365 XMacro. Just a little history on the 365 if you're new to it. The 365 was initially introduced back in 2018 in the micro version, which you see here on the table, and quickly became one of the best-selling, if not the best-selling handguns in the United States. In 2019, new variants started coming out, including the XL, which is my personal favorite, which had a longer slide and a longer grip that extended from the standard 10-round magazine to a 12-round magazine. In 2021 came another variant, which basically took the micro slide and put it onto the XL frame. So again, you have a 12-round capacity with a shorter slide. A few other variants came out in 380 caliber, and then finally in 2022 came out what was called the XMacro Comp. And the two biggest changes with the XMacro Comp were, first off, the magazine, and by the way, all these guns have been safety checked before the video was made, came out with this 17-round magazine. And of course, building off of the same magazine profile of the other SIGs, they work in all the various different options. So they interoperate similar to what a Glock magazine would typically do. And one of the other differences with the Comp was it had a compensated model. So what it did is it took the micro barrel, which came up short, and then they cut porting. And what this allowed is for gases to escape for better control of when you're firing the gun. However, I'm personally not a fan of compensated handguns, mostly because all my experiences when I've done shoot houses or you shoot in low light, no light situations, etc., compensators can be very problematic. They can be very blinding as far as visibility wise, as well as just the sheer amount of noise that they produce. Similar to a lot of what police used to deal with back when they carried revolvers, 357 Magnums. Most of them never really carried 357 Magnums in their cylinders, largely because if they had to do any shooting indoors, they literally could cause permanent hearing loss. So those two major factors are why I don't like compensated handguns personally. I know there's other people that might disagree with me on that, but again, that's something that I've stayed away from because of my experiences with them. However, we were all kind of waiting when they came out with the comp version for the non-comp version, and that's what you see here today. So I've reviewed almost all these different 365 models. I have a link in the comments below. And let's just talk a little bit more specifically about the XMacro non-comped version today. So first thing, what are some of the things I like about it? First off, it's a Sig P365. It's a proven platform. When you become arguably the best-selling handgun in America, for now a number of years, clearly this is a proven platform. There were some issues early on, as we know, with the strikers, except those seem to have been rectified, and especially in the newer SIGs that we purchase. These are excellent right out of the box, so these don't require any typical Glock modifications. So again, fully triggered or fully checked, but things like, for example, a phenomenal trigger, which I love on these guns, and a nice audible reset. On the X series, you have a break at 90 degrees on the trigger. It has a stainless steel slide with nitrum finish, as well as X-ray day night sights, which again are just absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't change any one of these. And then the best part is the ergonomics. It just feels really good in the hand when you fire these, especially their grips. So these are all the things that made the 365 such an amazing gun. If you see my previous videos, I do like having on my 365s the manual safety option because it's very low profile and very slim, but it's also effective. So you can use it or not use it depending upon how you like to carry. And then also it is interchangeable. It is a modular system. So as I've talked about before in the previous videos, one of the things I love about what SIG has done is you can easily pop out the fire control unit by pushing this pin out. You disassemble the gun, you push the pin out, and then you can swap the fire control unit, which is the only serialized component, into other forms of 365s, etc. So again, those are some of the things that make the 365 so well. What are some of the cons on here? Well, not really that many. There is, however, one con that I have on this compared to, for example, the XL. Now, I have regular sized hands, so to me, the XL grip is absolutely perfect in my hand. It just feels fantastic. Because it takes a 17-round magazine, the Macro has a little bit longer grip, but the profile is a little bit different as well. And because of that, it's just not as comfortable for me, at least for me, to fire this as it is with the XL. Now, if you have a larger hand or a big paw, you might actually prefer this over the XL. But in my experience, at least for me, I do like the XL a little bit better. Another drawback, at least currently, is that Wilson Combat does not make a grip module that you've probably seen in my reviews before, that you can easily swap these out. In fact, if Wilson Combat did come out with a grip module, I might actually change my tune a little bit on the macro. And again, that builds into the modularity benefit of the 365. The other thing, another con, is even though the Sig mags are really high quality and get a lot of rounds into the magazine, they're not cheap. These are not cheap magazines compared to, for example, Glocks, and you can pick up P-mags, copies, etc. These are expensive magazines, and as I noted many times in videos, if you're going to buy a handgun, I always recommend you buy at least 5 magazines with the handgun. So you're going to be buying extra ones of these, and that's going to be adding to additional cost. And then the final thing about the macro, especially if you're an existing Sig owner, is that the macro does not fit into my micro, my X, or my XL holders, especially my holsters that have Kydex and things of that nature, largely because of the Picatinny rail system. It's just larger than traditional rails on the other 365s, and therefore it doesn't work. So if you're going to get a macro and you want to holster it, plan on getting new holsters for this as well. As far as caliber and capacity, it's a 9mm. Again, the benefit of this is it holds 17 round magazines, which are pretty cool. When you buy these, they also come with adapter sleeves, so you're going to see them on here as well, so you can fire them in different versions of the 365, whether it be the micro or the XL, or in this case, the macro. So they do work within all of those systems. Again, it's a typical striker-fired system, so most handguns are that way today. Again, internally fired, etc. The great thing about the trigger pull, not only is it crisp and it's great out of the box, currently with my Lyman gauge, it clocks in at about a 4-pound trigger pull, which to me is perfect for a handgun of this type. Ergonomics and weight, let's just take a look real quick at how this comes in on weight. So without a magazine in, it comes in at 1 pound, 3.2 ounces. So for a size comparison and weight comparison, probably the easiest comparison would be to a Glock 48. And in this case, this comes in at 1.28. So they're almost identical in weight between the two. Some of the other additional things with this, when you buy a macro, it's going to come with these backstrap systems. And again, there's not really that much difference in size on the backstraps. You can easily push out the pin here and put them in. I've tried all three, and there's really not that much of a difference to me compared to other backstrap systems that you would see, like, for example, on M&Ps, etc. So again, there's not much value there. It does have a 1913 rail system, so if you're big on having rails and interchangeability for your rail type attachments, that is a nice benefit of that, as well as the fact that it's got an optics cut, so you can run micro type dots and things like that on here. As far as takedown and easy cleaning, if you've never fired a 365 before, it's very simple. You just flip the lever down and you can easily disassemble and reassemble the pistol, so there's nothing really revolutionary there. And again, it's a great striker fire type system. Some of the options, you're going to have to get a new holster if you want to holster this moving forward, if you're trying to use previous versions of Sig holsters. And as far as accuracy, again, all my 365s shoot phenomenally well. It's one of my favorite things about them. It's just very, very accurate and very comfortable to shoot right out of the box. So there's a lot of alternatives to the 365. Many of them have now cloned. Many of these vendors have actually cloned what Sig is doing because the platform is so good. So a lot of times all these things you see out there, whether they be Taurus or Springfield, you know, the Hellcats or Smith & Wesson, etc. Again, many of them copy in the concepts of what the 365 originally was. But probably the closest in comparison, I would say, in many cases, is the Glock 48. And when you look at them size-wise, just by comparison, if you want to put them just side by side, again, the Glock is a little bit longer in slide. It's a little bit taller as well. but not by much. So they're pretty similar. The main difference, of course, is with the Glock 48 stock out of the box. This is a 10-round magazine as opposed to a 17-round magazine. Now, you can get these additional shield arm magazines, as I talked about in the review, where you can get the round counts in your Glock 48 up to about 15 rounds. But again, that's just one of the major comparisons between the two pistols. As far as utility, what is this great for? Well, first off, a 365 is great for concealed carry. That's why it's become so popular. However, the larger size now allows for, you know, in addition to home defense, also probably light tactical use as well. So if you like to shoot quite a bit and shoot your 365s, you're probably going to like the macro, just because, again, it just gives you a little bit more tactical ability of firing, etc. Now, one of the drawbacks, of course, with it, however, compared to, for example, with the XL, is one of the things that prints the most on a handgun when you carry it is the size and length of the grips. So when you look at the two in comparison, you'll notice that the grips on the macro are a little bit longer than the XL. And some people might look at this and say, well, that's kind of negligible, but actually it's not. Every small little difference in length is really a big difference in concealed carry. And sometimes people, including myself, I don't really want to carry a grip any larger than the XL because this does print quite a bit. However, if you're carrying outside the waistband and you're carrying in tactical holsters, again, it's probably not going to be much of an issue for you. So overall value, again, it's a 365, right? High quality, accurate, ready right out of the box, which is what I love about them. They're reliable, they're modular, etc. These are ideal, in my opinion, these macros, for people that have larger sized hands. So if you're gripping a XL, like this one right here, and your hand's going way off of the XL, yeah, you're probably going to want to move to the macro. The other benefit, since it's a modular system, is you can buy these macro grip modules separate and put them on, for example, an XL. So if you have an existing XL slide, you can pop the trigger group out and then just buy an additional macro lower if that's what you wish to do. But for people like me with, you know, smaller to average size hands, one of the benefits I like personally, I still prefer the XL over the macro. And why is that? Because I can still buy these 17 rounds right here, which come with an additional extension, and then it allows me to shoot the same magazine that I would put in a macro for my XL. It just sticks out a little bit farther, but again, I have the extension on there. So what I personally like to do is I like to carry with the standard 12-round magazine, but in this case what I do is I put in the extension, the Mag Guts +2 extension, so it really allows me to carry 14 rounds flush on an XL. And then my two backup magazines, of course, then would be the 17-round magazines, which again, I can easily buy those separately and put those in as well. The other thing I don't personally care for as much on the macro is the larger rail system. I really don't have a need for that, especially for concealed carry. It just adds a little bit to what I don't want onto the gun as well. So that's a brief review of the Sig P365 XMacro. Again, another great offering by Sig. And if this is something that is of interest to you, hopefully this video helps. If you like this video or you like this channel, please subscribe on YouTube, and thanks for watching.